Hello, this is Molly Reamer with 30 Days of Goddess and the Goddess Magic Community with this week's Rituals of Returning video. And we are crossing the threshold into July, into our month of compassion and our month of Kuan. And so this is our core Goddess Guidance Club video for this month, including our Herbal Ally of the Month and the Goddess of the Month. And so today I am using the Goddess Guidance Oracle. I'm using my own Story Goddess Oracle. I have a little assist from the Self Sorcery Oracle. And then I have, of course, our herb card from the Herb Crafters Tarot. And so we're actually going to go ahead and start first with Kuan Yin as our Goddess of the Month, the Goddess of Compassion. And she is, and I have my backdrop here of our beautiful new Kuan Yin blessing or prayer flag that we have in the shop. And so these prayer flags really are infused or imbued with the goddess blessings, the blessings and wishes that we wish to send out into the world. So hanging them up in the wind and letting them carry Kuan Yin's blessing of compassion to all beings. And each flag has a lot of symbolism and meaning layered into it. So of course we have the lotus. Kuan Yin rises from the lotus, from the muck of confusion. These oysters here also have a similar connection. She's associated with fishermen and with the catch, but also the, just like the lotus rises from the mud, the oyster creates beauty from grit, And then she also, I went ahead and chose to have the sacral chakra symbol behind her, and a yin yang, of course, for balance and for her roots in Eastern traditions. And then she has a little heart necklace on for love. But I ended up choosing the sacral chakra behind her, even though she is associated with the heart chakra, because the sacral chakra and clearing out the sacral chakra is associated with emotional availability and compassion. And so we need to clean out some of that gunk, so to speak, in order to offer compassion to others. And so that's the reasoning behind that inclusion there. So anyway, just wanted to go ahead and mention that. And then we're going to hop on over to the Kuan Yin card from the Goddess Guidance Oracle. I have used this Goddess Guidance Oracle for a really long time. It's long-term been one of my favorite decks. I have shared in past videos kind of the disclaimer that I stopped using it because the author had kind of a change of heart and actually renounced the goddess information that she'd shared in the past, and I felt ethically uncomfortable with that approach, and so I started to steer clear of using the deck. And then recently it's such a comprehensive deck. It has so many great goddesses in it that I've started to use it with the disclaimer, essentially, that while the author I feel like is problematic in that way, the deck itself retains a core of goodness. And so I don't want to, and I've used it for so long that it feels like it has I really have a deep connection with the deck. And so I use it, but with the qualifier that there's some issues with the author of the deck. So Kuan Yin, the Goddess of Compassion, and she has a message here: release judgments. So ironically, since I was just speaking of the author, so let's release judgments of her. Release judgments about yourself and others and focus on the love and light that is within everyone. So focus on the love and light that is within everyone. So a question to consider this month might be, how can you release judgment about yourself and others? An affirmation might be, I release judgment about myself and others. I focus on the love and light that is within everyone. I orient my life with compassion, by compassion. I orient my life by compassion. I orient my life by joy. And so the author actually says, this gentleness is the strength behind true power. And so that might be an affirmation too. My gentleness is a strength. And it comes from feeding yourself with nourishing words, thoughts, deeds, intentions, and all forms of food. Shield yourself from harshness by placing an intention to attract only kind and gentle life lessons and relationships. So those of you who are paying members of the Goddess Magic community know that we're focusing on a gentle July. After having a gentle June, we're also focusing on a gentle July. And so that's a really appropriate message here. Shield yourself from harshness by placing an intention to attract only kind and gentle life lessons in relationships. Transform harshness into gentleness by refusing to see anything but the shining light that's within each person and situation. And I will say, obviously, we have to use discernment. Sometimes we can't only see the shining light. So we need to be okay with that duality. This intention begins with your relationship with yourself. Be very gentle with yourself in all ways. Be happy, be kind, be sweet, but most of all, be true to you. So a core affirmation for this month would be, I am gentle with myself. I am gentle with myself. And then also, I feed myself with nourishing words, thoughts, deeds, intentions. So I feed myself with gentle nourishment. I feed myself with gentle nourishment in all forms. And so the meanings of this card are to release guilt and shame, to let go of judgment, to keep your thoughts about yourself and others positive whenever possible, avoid gossip or bad mouthing of yourself or others. So these are practices for this month. Forgive yourself or another. And also I would add, forgive yourself for forgetting. So we can have many good intentions. We can have many good intentions. We can be trying to keep our thoughts positive. We can be trying to avoid gossip or bad-mouthing others. But we also need to remember to forgive ourselves for forgetting. That's part of compassion. That's part of generosity. That's part of gentleness, is to forgive ourselves for forgetting. So another affirmation for this month might be, I forgive myself for forgetting. Don't be so hard on yourself or others, and release perfectionistic tendencies. So the Eastern goddess Kuan Yin hears all prayers and is the essence of purity, nurturing love, and gentle power. Kuan Yin is a bodhisattva, and so some people, in different versions of her story, so some people consider her also a goddess that's strongly identified with trans people, because some of her stories is that she started out as a boy and then became a woman, sometimes through rejection from her father or different things like that. So there's an association there with the protection of trans people as well through Kuan Yin's compassion. But anyway, lots of stories about Kuan Yin. So she's a bodhisattva, meaning she's eligible for Buddhahood, yet she has vowed to stay near earth until all beings are enlightened. This beautiful goddess helps us to feel compassion and mercy toward ourselves and others. She's a protectress of women and children and all people, really. And she awakens musical interests and abilities, as well as psychic clairvoyance. So those are some of her stories. But the idea is that she is here. She is she who hears the cries of the world. She is present with and comes to the aid of anyone who is suffering. She is there in her compassion and her strength. And also, and she's purple, that there's a lavender flame of Kuan Yin as part of her stories as well, that kind of sweeps through and clears away negativity or stuck thoughts and opens the way to compassion. And so we're going to go ahead and move over now to our herb of the month, which is willow. And this one was really perfect. I had a very magical moment with this because Kuan Yin is also associated with the willow tree. And she's often seen pouring from a cup, pouring from a vase of compassion. She's also seen seated beneath a willow tree or with willow branches or with willow involved. And so when I was choosing the Herbal Ally card for the month, I thought to myself, I really hope I get willow for Kuan Yin's month. I really would like to do that because I'd love to send some willow bark out. I take willow bark for headaches, but I would like to send some willow bark out in our patron kits, and I hope I get willow. And then I thought, I can just choose it if I want to, but anyway, I drew the card and I got willow. So it was perfect. It was the stars were aligned, the oracle cards were aligned, and we received willow from the Herb Crafter's Tarot, the Four of Earth. So we're going to check on over to see what Letitia Guthrie and Joanna Powell Colbert have to say about willow. And so the core message here is, be a wise steward of your resources. Be a wise steward of your resources. Be flexible yet sturdy. Be flexible yet sturdy. So an affirmation might be, I am a wise steward of my resources. I am flexible yet sturdy. And then she also says, strong roots help young sprouts grow. And so the point here is about taking time to gather your resources and tend them well. Create space to preserve what you have gained. So Willow is a protective area, creating a natural space and a natural sanctuary in the underbrush for small animals. Young trees can actually be shaped and curved to fit the location. The pliable stems, you can see the basket there. The pliable stems are prized by basket makers, and making tools for today is medicine for tomorrow. We need to build a foundation for future harvests. A tea made from willow branches can be used as a rooting hormone to help other plants grow. Tea made from willow bark or willow bark supplement can also be used for headaches and pain. Not an herbalist, not making a medical recommendation, just mentioning that that's a connection there. Give thanks to those who have given your life roots and be generous in sharing your gifts. So another affirmation might be, I am generous in sharing my gifts. And so some practice suggestions here are to frame an altar with willow branches and place objects inside inside the branches representing what you want to protect. Weave a willow bracelet around your wrist and wear it to remind you to be flexible and strong. So another affirmation, I already said I am flexible and sturdy, but I am flexible and strong. And then another practice is to shower your teachers in the past. Who have you learned from? And just like you're generous with your gifts, other people have been generous with you. So how might you return the favor and send a gift of natural art using willow, or make art using willow? You may also try to weave a willow basket if you have access to basket weaving materials or willow in which to do those things. Then I decided to have an assist from a new deck for me, which is the Self-Sorcery Guidebook by Lisa Lister. And I loved this card when I first picked it because I have a deep connection to Persephone and to pomegranates, and to devotion, to living a devotional life. And so I loved picking that card and having that be my first introduction to this deck was Let It Be Devotional. And so this really connects well to things I've talked about in previous videos in the last couple of months. And so the message here is to care less about discipline and turn your attention to devotion, a devotion to your, and I say, discipline confines, but devotion liberates. And so this is a perfect message that goes along with that philosophy. Discipline confines, but devotion liberates. Devotion to your body, your wants, your needs, your longings, and your rhythmic intelligence. A devotion to all that life has to offer. Each bite, each sip, savoring it all. And then it also reminds us, and I really need this reminder myself this month, realizing and recognizing that there is no rush, despite what the societal spell will have you believe. Allow joy and pleasure to be ever present and turning, and continue to turn your attention and intention toward it daily, moment by moment, without guilt or apology. Devote your whole heart to what it is that lights you all the way up. So another affirmation might be, a core affirmation really might be, I devote my whole heart to what lights me up. I devote my whole heart to my life. Another one I come back to over and over is I am a devotion to my own life. I devote myself to this life with joy. I devote myself to this life with joy. Another thing I like to say is I orient my life by joy. And that's one of the things as we step into Gentle July that I'm really rooting back into and reminding myself of is I orient my life by joy. I orient my life by joy. It's really easy to get caught up in the to-dos and the must-dos and the have-dos and the list that never ends. And if we keep coming back, if we keep returning to center and we keep orienting our lives by joy, then magic happens. So the affirmation, I devote my whole heart to what it is that lights me all the way up, or I devote my whole heart to life. And so she also points out it's an act of self-devotion to check in with the truth of your body on a daily basis. This practice allows us to be with what is. Who am I right now? So that's a question to consider. Who am I right now? And give ourselves permission to be with whatever that is, whether it's feeling scattered, powerless, full of joy, totally powerful, or anywhere else on the spectrum of feels. It helps us to get present to our presence. I am present with my presence is another affirmation. I am present with my presence. A long time ago, I used to work in an oncology clinic and as a social worker there. And one of the things we would ask when we had our supportive counseling sessions with cancer patients was, how are your feelings feeling? How are your feelings feeling? And that's a little different than asking, how do you feel? But like, it gives people an opportunity to kind of almost externalize it and then also inquire within. So how are your feelings feeling? But anyway, get present with your presence. And from there, let it be so deliciously devotional. What does your heart want to taste, experience, feel, and sense? Give it to yourself as a celebration and devotion to you. Some practices: buy yourself flowers, wear your most sacred scent, diffuse some oils, put on your favorite ensemble, lavish yourself with the most delicious love, worship yourself, and be in devotion to your own life. We're here to be here. That's really fundamental. So those are the self-sorcery practices. And let life be deliciously devotional. Listen to your heart. So we've already gone a little past time, so we'll revisit the Kuan Yin card from the Story Goddess Oracle in in videos to come this month. But in the meantime, may you be flexible and strong. May you be filled with compassion, and may you let it be devotional. May you listen to your heart. May you orient your life by joy. Thanks so much for being here. Keep living your magic, everybody. Bye-bye.